Dear viewers from across the world, this is indeed a bestowal of divine grace and indeed a special privilege, because I happen to be sitting, or rather closeted, with one of the most upright political faces of this country. Those of you who are very much in my contact list would be very much familiar with this particular fact, that time and again I have been stressing or emphasizing on this fact that India, indeed, especially in the political firmament, we have the fewest of you who can give a proper direction to the nation. And indeed, it is Jharkhand, the state of Jharkhand, has one of the such a jewels in the politics, for the entire nation to follow in his glorious footsteps. So I am sitting with one of the such brightest faces in the politics today in the country, that is Honorable Sri Saryu Roy ji, who is not only my icon, but he happens to be an icon for the vast number of people. And I have, not only I, but it is on the basis of not only my perception, but on the basis of the assessment, the ground reality that I myself have witnessed, that I dubbed him as the people's leader. Indeed, he is the people's leader in the contemporary times. And I tell you, I take a tremendous, a great privilege again to make a public declaration or announcement that I am privileged to write a book on Honorable Sri Saryu Roy ji, that is the people's leader. I have been fancying this for quite some time, and by his benign grace, respected Sri Saryu Roy ji has given me this particular opportunity to write a historic book wherein the entire political scenario since the days of Jayaprakash Babu will be unfolded before the nation. One of the versatile personalities in our midst today, who has had an opportunity of an exposure in the myriad political activities. He had the privilege of working under the three topmost prime ministers that India can claim to have showcased in the past. That is Sri Honorable Sri Chandrasekhar ji, Sri Vishwanath Pratap Singh ji, and Honorable Statesman Prime Minister Sri Vajpayee ji. So Honorable Sri Saryu Roy ji had the opportunity of working with us, but we were working with them. But most importantly today, why I requested Honorable Sri Saryu Roy ji to give me an august audience especially for this particular interaction, because of a historic judgment coming from NGT, and it was a really, I would say, historic, a monumental, in the sense that NGT had come out with such a revelation that indicts all those bureaucrats who basically who have been tutored to follow the footsteps of the politicians, to kowtow to the politicians or the power that be, because blindly, despite their being absolutely familiar with the fact that no positive sanction or no tangible sanction was forthcoming from the authorities, like environmental clearance was not there, but despite all that, the state assembly, new assembly building was constructed, and then high court and so many private buildings were constructed. And most importantly, it was a blunder on the part of the political leadership, and even it was some sort of mistake, or rather, even if not mistake, it was a goof up on the part of the Honorable Prime Minister of India, because the people's leader, Honorable Sri Saryu Roy ji, had made it a point to especially inform His Excellency the Prime Minister of India not to come to inaugurate the new Vidhan Sabha building on the ground that it had not obtained its environmental clearance. And most importantly, coincidentally then, Honorable Prime Minister he was awarded a prestigious environmental award from some very world recognized body, and that indeed should have been an opportunity for the Prime Minister to take a proper note or cognizance of such a letter being sent to him by no less a person than a phenomenon that is Saryu Roy ji is known across the country. But despite all that, Prime Minister came, and most astonishingly, while a collective photograph session was going on, Sri Saryu Roy ji was not enthused, he was not amused, because he knew that there was a flagrant violation of the environmental law. But the Prime Minister, very rather in a lighter vein, but nonetheless he stated, rather he asked all those members present to smile and not to follow the footsteps of Sri Saryu Roy ji, who was not having a very, a very positive or bright face, because he knew that sort of inauguration was absolutely in the flagrant violation of the environmental law, and that was not keeping with the letter and spirit of the law of the land. Sir, it is indeed a bestowal of divine grace, because you have given me the privilege that I have been seeking from you for quite some time, to write such a book which will be a landmark for the nation. Because as you recall, you are such an intellectual face. I have written a piece today, thousands of people have gone through it, wherein I said that, basically, if you recall, Sir Stafford Cripps' remark, he was the architect of cabinet mission plan. He had defined politics as a means of getting money from the rich, while vote from the poor, while promising to protect each from the other. And you have been a flag bearer of not only truth and ethics, but you always, it has been your nature, your very attitude to raise your voice of protest, to raise a banner of revolt, as and when you saw some irregularity, some sort of flaws in the system, and you never hesitated from stepping or from raising your voice against all the maladies that society has been afflicted with. Sir, you wrote a letter to the Prime Minister, but Prime Minister still, despite that, he came. So how do you sum up the whole scenario, and what exactly, how the society is being led astray from its actual noble altruistic mission?
Keeping in view the present violations of the environmental laws, a very strong act was enacted in 1986 in the name of Environment Protection Act. And under the provision of that act, in 2006, EIA notification was issued, and so many directions were given to the persons who are involved with the construction work or in economic activities, and some restrictions were placed upon them. So in the case of the building construction, EIA notification 2006 says that whosoever, either a person or a group of persons or an institution, want to erect a building having more than 20,000 meter, 20,000 square meter area, built up area, the environmental clearance will be a must for such construction work. So we are seeing since long that this environment impact assessment notifications provisions are presently violated. What is condition in other states I don't know, but in Jharkhand, so many sprawling buildings have come up who were constructed without taking environment clearance. And if you do such thing, it is in fact a crime under the provisions of the EIA notification as well as the Environmental Protection Act 1926. Later on, we realized that if brake is not placed on such activities, the urban people will suffer, our coming generation will suffer, and dream of a decent urban livelihood became a distant thing. So now the people think that planting trees and protecting rivers, etc., are the only thing which the environmental concern desires. But for an urban area, the construction of the buildings too are as important as any other step in the arena of environment protection. So the EIA notification 2000 provisions, if they are not enacted, the urbanization will ultimately fail, and a decent urban life will be a distant dream. So I and my other colleagues started issuing memorandums, press statements that so many buildings are coming up who doesn't have the environmental clearances. And when the sprawling building of Jharkhand State Assembly and that of the High Court, they were conceived, then people like me was of the opinion that the government will obey all the required rules and regulations for this. But later on we came to know that the assembly, state assembly, where lawmakers will gather, they will frame the rules, laws, enactments for the people of the state. Then this building is coming up under the violation of the environment clearances. No EC was taken before construction. And when Prime Minister came for inauguration of this building, people like me raised this question that if an institution like State Assembly will not abide by the rules, will not follow rules, and the building under which the legislature of the state will deliberate for the betterment of this state, then how can we say that such buildings should come up without environmental clearances? When the date of PM's inauguration came nearer, it was, as I think, on September 12, 2019. I think hardly on 11 or 10 of the September, the SIA, State Environment Impact Assessment Authority, this institution gave clearance of environment clearance to the state, though the SIA doesn't have any power to issue clearance certificate. And in that certificate, they said that the building was constructed under the violation of the EIA notification 2006. Yet we are giving the EC. And on that pretext, PM came, inaugurated. Later on, I wrote a lengthy letter to him that you were conferred the Champion of World Environment Award. You participated in Man versus Wild film. Your role was there, and people of such stature and such imagination comes to inaugurate a building which doesn't have environmental clearance. It is a pity. It all happened. The High Court, where the judgments will be passed, is also being erected under the utter violation of the EIA Act. No EC Act has been obtained for that. About 55 buildings in different urban areas, urban local bodies in this state are coming up without EC, without environment clearance. The malls, markets, cinema halls, other institutions are creating. So we gathered such list, and one of our close associates who works with us in Save Damodar campaign, in eradication of pollution from river Sonrekha, Save Saranda campaign, Dr. R.K. Singh, who has acquired PhD on Saranda forest and now working as an environmental activist. He filed a petition before the Eastern Bench of the NGT. I think more than 1 year passed, and today the NGT has passed a judgment on this and has said that those, whosoever it may be, have violated the EIA notification 2006 and constructed small buildings of more than 20,000 square meters area. According to the Environmental Protection Act 1986, criminal cases must be lodged against these, and a fine as per the formula of the Central Pollution Control Board will be imposed upon them. So now on this Vidhan Sabha, the Building Construction Department has been fined rupees 47 crores as a violator. Similarly, High Court fine will go between 66 crores to 77 crores. Other 55 installments too will be fined. So now the question is, who will pay the fine? Because the government building was constructed by a contractor selected by the Building Construction Department of the Jharkhand government. though all the engineers, eminent engineers, brilliant minds, secretaries, even contractors knows that EC is a must for construction of a building of more than 20,000 square meter area. So the fine must be realized from them. Otherwise, the people of this country, of this state, who pay the taxes to the government exchequer, now their tax, their earning of their hard earning of sweets and bloods will be given as a fine for the fault of the officers who knowingly, deliberately violates the environmental laws and constructs the building, allows the building constructions, pass its DPRs. So such people must be accounted for it.
So viewers, you have seen Mr. Saryu Roy ji, the man, the flag bearer of truth and ethics. Not only he is the people's leader, where so far as the politics is concerned, he has been an environmental crusader. He has been crusading even on the environmental front for decades together. Most importantly, even although Prime Minister was misled by the state political leaders, but nonetheless, given the overall gravity of the issue involved, Honorable Prime Minister and as Honorable Mr Saryu Roy ji has very specifically articulated that being declared as a hero even on the environmental front, especially conferred with such a prestigious award, now it is a duty of the Honorable Prime Minister to take the state leadership to task, especially in such scenario when the environmental clearance obtained, as it has been vouched and corroborated by Mr Saryu Roy ji, which has been proved to be duplicitous, a sort of a scam in some sense or other. So Prime Minister should take all those people, make all those people accountable, because it also is a stricture indirectly not only on the leadership or of the state leadership, but somehow or other Prime Minister's overall credibility is involved in that too. Most importantly, therefore, we need my upcoming book, that is The People's Leader, which I have chosen even year ago. I just had conceived that particular idea, and number of times I just mooted that idea before Honorable Rai Sahab, but he said to me, he just was dismissive. He said, I have not done what I have done. But people by and large believe that in today's crucial time, there is one man as a flag bearer of truth and ethics, and whose very existence in the politics is a guarantee of security for the common men and women. Definitely he is the people's leader. Long back I remember the then founder, chairman of Indian Express, Sri Ramnath Goenka ji, in Nani Palkiwala, one of the greatest constitutional jurists of all time, had written in one of his classic, We the People. He says that in such a duplicitous and dubious times, there was somebody who people could trust upon. That was Mr. Ramnath Goenka. In today's scenario, contemporary scenario, if somebody, the common men and women can definitely place their trust in, that particular phenomenon is none but Honorable Mr Saryu Roy ji. Sir, you have given me time. It's so nice of you for interaction. And once again, this is Vivekanand Jha, an author, academician, and public intellectual, an author of an upcoming book, that is The People's Leader, based on an illustrious life of Sri Saryu Roy ji, not only in the political arena, but also on environmental and so many social works, the avalanche of social works that respected Roy Sahab has done. Thank you.